Hi again. It's Buck again, and I'm back again. I have a question for you. When you think of a miracle, what do you think? Do you think a parting of the Red Seas, or the water changing into wine, or something like that? Well, I agree with you. Those are definitely miracles. Those are what I call major miracles. That parting of the Red Sea, that was a big deal. Jesus walking on water, that's a big deal. Water into wine, big deal. Feeding of 5,000 with just a couple of fish and 5 loaves of bread, that's a big deal. It's things that just don't happen that much. They're out of the ordinary. Scientifically, they can't happen at all. And yet, once in a while they do. Those are what I call major miracles. But there's also what I call the minor miracles. Those things that just happen, that shouldn't happen, they defy logic, but they happen. They don't seem to have any reason for happening, but they do. Why do they happen? I think they happen a lot of times just to turn people around. But I also think they happen because God loves you. He cares. And I think that they happen to just about anybody because people, well, when I say anybody, I mean anybody that has a heart that's decent, that's just a decent human being. And it may not be who you think is decent, but it's who God knows, because God lives within you. Now, there was a man by the name of Farley that I used to like. He was kind of reprobate, but he and I got along pretty good. And a lot of people thought he was a crook. I didn't feel that way about Farley. I thought that he drove a really hard bargain. Well, he had to. It was his business. He was an auctioneer. But anyway, Farley was a hard drinker, and I remember one time he came up to my house. We lived out in the woods. He came. I didn't know he was out there. I heard somebody say, "Hey, Buck." I got up and went out there, and there's Farley, drunk as a coot, on a horse. He'd gone into town on horseback, knew he was going to get plowed, and so he rode his horse so he wouldn't get a ticket going back. And the horse, if you know anything about horses, you know they're going to go home as soon as they can. And so, but anyway, he stopped by to say howdy, and it was wonderful. Well, Farley had an auction barn on Highway 199, and his wife Anna had a store, a second-hand store, on the highway. And the two of them supported themselves with his auction barn and Anna's store, and they lived on 6 acres. Their house was a piece of junk. Now, it was really rough. The linoleum was curled up on the edges, and yeah, it was not a place you'd like to own. But Farley decided he'd like to retire, and he wanted to spend the rest of his life driving around the United States in his mobile home, fishing. That was his dream. He loved fish. I needed a shop. I had a shop out at the airport, but that wasn't the best location. It was really an out-of-the-way place. Nobody knew I was there. And I found out that Farley wanted to sell his shop, and I was looking for a place that had a suitable shop and a barn. And Farley's place was ideal, right on the highway. Traffic going by there all the time, going down to California and up from California. And Anna's store was right there, and they always had cars parked in front of it, somebody buying something. So I thought, yeah, that'd be a good place. And I forget what the price was, but I think it was $50,000. It was 6 acres, just off the Illinois River, and the upshot of it was, he and I came to a deal. I bought the place. This did not make my wife happy at all. Now, it really made me happy because I thought I needed to make money. I needed to make a living. This is his barn is ideal for a wood shop, and it was big. It was spacious. It would handle everything I had. And the store, we could sell things. I made little wood products that they really my stock and trade was just custom woodworking. I made custom furniture. So anyway, I was going to call the business the Furniture Barn, and we came to a deal. I bought the place, but he needed time to close out his business, so he wanted to rent it for 6 months lease, and that was we agreed to it. So he paid me rent for 6 months after we closed the deal, and the deal was done. Time went by. My wife was not happy. She did not like that house at all. She just couldn't see herself living there, and I kept saying, "Baby, I'll fix it up. It won't stay that way. This is my business." And probably rightly so, but she figured that I'd never have time to work on my own stuff. Like the cobbler's shoes, you know, the cobbler's kids need shoes. So anyway, time passed. We were in the 5th month, getting close to time for him to close out. I was in my house early in the morning before work, meditating and praying. And suddenly I heard a voice. And it was a clear voice. And it said, "Offer Farley his house back. His circumstances have changed, and he needs it." Okay. Later that morning, I asked Farley, would you like to buy your property back?" He jumped on it so fast. Well, what happened, it turns out that he had been diagnosed with cancer, and his dreams of traveling the United States in his mobile home and fishing, it wasn't going to happen. And he needed a permanent place to live. He asked me, he said, "How much do you want for it?" And I said, $1,000 more than I paid for it. Now, I wasn't trying to stiff him. I had done $1,000 worth of work, electrical improvements on the property. I upgraded the whole electrical system. He said, "Done." Papers were drawn up. The house reverted to Farley. It got both of us out of a mess. My wife was happy. We ended up buying a really nice place out in the woods. Little bit of acreage. Nice shop. Small house, but it was suitable. And I did fix it up. I added another room to it. This is what I call the kindred spirit principle. When two people have a need and they can help each other, they get moved into the circumstances that will make it come about. You can see this. Sometimes you'll be going home, you go the same way every day, and then one day, instead of turning right, you turn left. And you find out when you got home there was a horrendous accident on the highway, and you realize that if you'd have gone home the regular way, you'd have been involved in it. This stuff happens all the time. We hardly pay any attention to them, or we say, "Boy, was I lucky." It's not luck. It's the kindred spirit connection. You, God, connected, and with other people who are like you. Now, Farley wasn't a churchgoer. I was, but he wasn't. But he was a good man. I knew he was. His heart was good, and he had a need, and God knew he had a need, and God loved Farley, and God took care of him. He didn't heal the cancer. Well, actually, Farley got well, but it was chemotherapy that did it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it touched you in some way. See you later.